Hi, it's Irene Weinberg, and welcome to the Grief and Rebirth podcast. Before we get started with the episode, make sure to like and subscribe wherever you're listening or watching so you never miss an episode. Every week, we share heartfelt stories, spiritual insights, and practical guidance to help you navigate grief and trauma, find hope, and discover rebirth after loss. By subscribing, you'll get access to every episode and join our supportive community on this journey. Thanks for being here, and let's dive in. Hi, everyone. I hope this message finds each of you so very well. I'm speaking to you today from my studio in West Orange, New Jersey, and I could truly not be more delighted to welcome Kat Veracci, whose relationship with grief began at just 11 years old. By the time she turned 30, Kat had endured the loss of 14 family members and close friends, including both parents and all her grandparents. These early experiences, combined with 25 years in hospice care, have given Kat a rare, compassionate understanding of grief as both a deeply personal journey and a universal human experience. Over the course of her hospice career, Kat has walked beside thousands of individuals and families, offering presence, honesty, and grounded support through the realities of death and loss. She's an author, speaker, and grief coach whose work centers on holding space, honoring loss, and helping the bereaved find meaning and connection in the midst of sorrow. Through her platform, Balance in Grief, Kat offers free grief tip sheets, resources, and a supportive newsletter for those navigating life after loss. And she is soon launching her YouTube channel, Big Grief Questions, where she'll answer real questions about grief and healing. Kat is the author of Grief the Teacher and its companion workbook, as well as the Best Results Grief Work curriculum and its accompanying reflective workbook. Her newest book, Grief the Teacher We Never Wanted with the Lessons Only Love and Loss Can Teach, is a powerful memoir weaving together her personal story with the stories of patients and families she has saved. Well, I should just say she has served, but I'm sure a few of them you've also saved. Each chapter offers a lesson from Grief the Teacher, a moment that shifted Kat's perspective and opened a doorway to transformation, offered as hope for anyone walking their own path through loss. With both lived experience and decades of professional expertise, Kat brings a grounded, practical, and deeply human approach to grief work. She believes that while grief is hard work, it is possible to find balance again, to create a new normal, and to meet each day with a little more steadiness and compassion. Today, Kat joins me to share her wisdom, her story, and her belief that healing is not only possible, it is possible for you. I'm looking forward to speaking with Kat, joining us today from Apple Valley, California, as we explore what to say to children when someone in the family is dying or has died, how to recognize the difference between grief and avoidance, and the hidden, compounded losses that arise when we cling to narrow definitions of what grief should look like. We'll also dive into her remarkable experience involving the well-known medium John Edward, the moment she first sensed a continued connection with her loved ones after their passing, and so much more. Kat's journey reminds us that while grief is undeniably painful, it can also become one of life's most profound teachers. Our hardest losses often become the very soil where deep revelations take root, offering insights that reshape how we choose to love, live, and show up in the world every day. Hi there, and welcome to the International Award-winning Grief and Rebirth podcast. I'm your host, author, and trauma survivor, Irene Weinberg, here to support you wherever you are on your healing journey. Each week, I connect with leading grief and trauma experts, intuitive healers, mediums, and inspiring voices who share powerful stories of loss, resilience, and transformation. If you're searching for hope, meaning, and a path forward after loss or trauma, you're in the right place. Together, Let's rediscover joy, healing, and the possibility of rebirth. Hey, Kat.
Hey.
A warm welcome to Grief and Rebirth Podcast.
I'm so excited to be here.
And I'm excited to have you here, you know. There are some people who come on and I get to know them and really like them, or there are other people who come on and the minute they come on, I'm like, oh my God, I wish you didn't live in California.
Right?
We could be friends.
That's right. We'll just be miles apart friends.
Right, there you go. Each other's supporters. Your story is amazing, and I'm really excited. And you have so much to teach people. And I'm very excited for you to open a lot of eyes and open a lot of hearts with your story. I mean, does everybody lose 14 loved ones by the time they turn 30, including parents and grandparents? Could you explain to us how those early experiences shaped your understanding of grief and the human spirit?
Oh, I have to say the early experiences of it, which has really drawn me to do the work I do, is I didn't learn from them. I was in avoidance mode. Nobody talked to me about it. I remember when my aunt, who was like my favorite aunt, you know, you have that favorite aunt. She was Auntie Jo.
God bless her. I had one too. Yep.
Yeah. And we'd go to her house and she'd put up the paints and the palettes and let me paint away. And she had a big swing in her yard. And I loved to swing on her swing. And then we weren't going to Auntie Jo's anymore, and I didn't understand why, but okay, I was 11, and my mom had told me she's just sick. When she feels better, you know, then we can go back over. Well, she apparently never got better. And then it was actually Halloween when I didn't have a costume. We didn't even talk about it. And I went in, I was going to go into my mom's room because I knew she was in there to say, are we going to do Halloween or trick-or-treating today? You know, just as an 11-year-old is thinking about only themselves. And, and I opened the door and she was sobbing on the side of her bed. And so I just closed the door. And in a little while later, my dad came in. He said, sweetheart, I'm real sorry, but we're not going to do trick-or-treating today. And I said, okay, you know, and that was it. I didn't know my auntie had died that day. And
nobody talked to you. There was no communication.
Nothing. I think in many ways my parents just didn't know, you know, what to say. And so they didn't say anything. I went to school the next day, and then casseroles started showing up and people from the church, and I kind of understood, oh, maybe Auntie died. She must have died. But it was never explained to me, never talked about. Gosh. We just never went there again. And I think it was my parents' way. I don't think they knew better. I don't think they knew what to say. I think they were uncomfortable with the conversation. I think, you know, they were in their own grief. My mom particularly, she was very close to her sister. And then a year later, my grandmother died. And I did get to go to that funeral.
This was your mother's mother, your father's
My mother's mother.
Wow.
And so I got to go to her funeral. I don't know if maybe because I was a year older and we already had one death in the family, they thought that was okay. But just how cold it was, and everybody just saying how beautiful she looked. And I thought, because there was an open casket, and I thought, she looks blue or gray. That's not my grandma. And they put lipstick on her and she never wore lipstick. And I just sat there quietly in the corner with a smile on my face, nice and quiet like a good girl does. And there, again, no real conversations about it. And then the next year, my mother was diagnosed with cancer that killed my auntie.
Wow.
So she went through some years of, you know.
Did they die of the same cancer?
Mm-hmm. She went through radical mastectomies, and then eventually it went to her lungs. She actually survived another 5 years. Meanwhile, all that, you know, the radiation and the chemo and all that goes on, but there was no real discussion about it, you know. And so I learned at a very young age that you avoid grief. You don't talk about it. You shove it down. You don't ask questions. When someone dies, they go to Jesus. Okay.
What did that mean?
What does that mean? So, I was very lost. So as a young adult, and people continued to die, and I just avoided, and I just did what I was supposed to do. Oh, okay, I guess I get married and I have children, and I avoid, and I shove, and I shove, and I shove, and I don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. Whatever you do, don't talk about it, because when you start to bring up, on Mother's Day, people would be talking about their moms or their dads at Father's Day. And if I brought it up, everybody got uncomfortable. So I learned very quickly, okay, I can't talk about my dead mother. So she's not only dead, she never existed.
She's invincible now.
Yeah.
And is this what drew you to hospice later on in your life?
I'm going to tell you
hospice
straight.
Care?
I was not drawn to hospice. I felt like I was dragged to hospice, kicking and screaming.
Really?
Yes, because the way my life went, career was never a discussion. College wasn't there. People were dying in my family. We weren't talking about the future. So that just didn't happen. And I eventually we were very involved in the Pentecostal church. We didn't go to church once a week. We went 5 times a week. And
oh my goodness.
Very much involved. And then I ended up in my adult years working for the church. And what happened was that job ended under terrible circumstances, and I needed a job because I was going to get a divorce. And
boy, were you going through it? Whoop.
Yeah. So see, grief was just chasing me down in every avenue, whether it was loss of family.
Now you had a job to grieve also, in addition to everything else.
Oh my gosh! And then the divorce, the whole thing. I lost my home. I lost, I moved.
Those are all forms of grief, aside from all the people you lost.
Yeah.
And so how did you begin to work at hospice?
A friend of mine worked at hospice, and I was intrigued by that because I had never really heard of hospice. When my parents died, hospice wasn't even on the West Coast at that point. So, and I thought, wow, I could have really used hospice. That would have been nice. But he worked for it, and he said, I'm leaving my position. He was a chaplain. He said, I'm leaving my position. I would really like to recommend you if you need a job. And I thought, okay. So I kind of wandered in,
like you did with everything else in your life.
Everything else. And the guy hired me on the spot because he thought, you've lost that many people? Okay, well, I'm just going to trust this guy and trust that he's sent me the right person. And I immediately jumped in, and boy, we're going into people who are, I knew what hospice was, but just the emotion, because I didn't experience emotion and expression and conversation. And now I was the person that was supposed to help buffer that, to help teach how to get through that. And so...
And instead, it sounds like they were teaching you.
Oh my gosh. Trigger, trigger, trigger in every house I went. And they put me not just as a chaplain, but in the bereavement role because I just had a knack for it.
You do have a knack. Your personality is true. So but you called grief the honest teacher and avoidance the ruthless guide. Yeah. So did that come as you were working with hospice, or later on you started taking those lessons about grief?
Yeah, grief is an honest teacher because as grief continued to pursue in my life, it kept bringing up things for me that I kept trying to shove down. And when you shove down grief, when you don't talk about it, when you try to avoid it, when you try to shut the door on it, you're going to get sick. You're going to get, I had colitis, chronic colitis. I couldn't eat unless I took medication. I ended up clearly in a not good marriage for a lot of years and put up with a lot of things I should not have. I made decisions that were just made in avoidance to kind of maneuver through my life without really making decisions. When grief showed up and I really started to recognize it, it was when I was sitting in the homes with people and I realized that all the platitudes and all the crazy little statements that people gave me when I lost someone they didn't feel good to me, but I was trying to use them on my hospice families and could see it was useless. So then it's like grief showed me to say the things you needed to hear, or don't say anything and be present. And so when I started opening that door with my grief families, when I realized, because I was going through so many visits, we had to make 21 visits a week. So,
wow.
Yeah. So, and then that didn't count if you were on call on weekends.
You were also seeing different cultures, the way they handled grief.
Different cultures.
Which must have been amazingly eye-opening for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it also was a very big eye-opener to my own beliefs. It really kind of broke those open because I could see that I was really disenfranchised uncomfortable with the response from the church to the hospice families. Because, there were a few pastors, you'd call them because they want to see their own pastor, and I would call, will you come see them? And a few would, but most wouldn't. And so these families, they're on their deathbeds wanting to see their church family, but the church was avoiding them. And I get that. This is where my message really comes out, is because grief is something we are choosing as a society to avoid, to not have the honest conversations, to not talk about the feelings, to be uncomfortable in sitting in the emotion when everybody experiences it. All of humanity is going to experience grief.
Everything. We're going through it in many ways in our societies and all today. Yeah. My own theory, my own personal feeling is that unresolved grief is a big part of what's wrong with the world today, because
Absolutely.
People are so upset and they're displacing all that unhealed woundage emotion onto other people and or countries onto other countries. It goes everywhere. So you were avoiding it. Now you're letting it teach you. And now how did this lead to your new book, Grief the teacher we never wanted, with the lessons only love and loss can teach? How did you get to there? And I know each chapter, which could be so helpful to our audience, how does each chapter offer a lesson that can open a doorway to transformation when someone is walking through loss? So tell us about Grief the Teacher. How did all this lead to that? And anything else you'd like us to know about your book?
Thank you. Well, I worked for hospice for 25 years. And I really learned that I became very successful in the bereavement arena because I became a mentor for the Western region of the hospices and that sort of thing to help people with their bereavement programs in the different hospices. But what I learned is, instead of looking at grief as this sort of separate thing that's apart from us that we have to go through, that's terrible, like the grief monster is sitting over here and none of us want to experience that. It's the teacher we do not want. If we could change how we look at grief from being that monster to being a teacher that guides us to the shift in our lives, that expands our view on what life is and how it should be lived. And so that's really what inspired Grief the Teacher, is to put that grief monster into a teacher role. Because really, think about it, Irene, I'm sure you probably agree that the lessons you have learned through your grief process could not have been taught to you in any other way to the expansion that you now have experienced.
It changed my whole life.
Yeah.
It changed my whole life.
Perspective.
Everything.
how
everything.
your relation, how you
Led
relate
to this
to somebody
podcast.
else.
Led to everything.
Yeah.
It changed my whole everything. I mean, it's amazing. So is there, so in your book, each chapter offers a lesson. And is there
Mhm.
anything else? And it blends your personal story with the stories of patients and families you served, which
Yeah.
must be very helpful to
Yeah.
people.
I'll tell you, I got stories. I was doing
I'll
a
bet
long
you
time and
do.
I saw thousands of people.
It must
I
be
could tell you
fascinating.
stories, and some of the stories in the book, they're gonna, are you kidding me? Really? I am a storyteller. I've been writing and writing for years. This is my first book I
It's
published. So,
wonderful. It
but
is.
using those stories, I could show how grief is teaching in those circumstances. And I tell a lot of stories because I feel like all of us can relate to a different story from someone else. And
Absolutely.
yeah, one of the things I really learned in grief, especially when I was doing the work, was nobody knows how you feel because nobody knew how I felt.
Right.
Yeah. And I actually had a patient. Her name was Kathleen, which is my formal name, Kathleen. She had a son who was 20 years old, which was the age I was when my mother died. And his name was Nathan, which is the name of my oldest son, Nathan.
There are no
And
accidents. I'm seeing a little bit of a
yeah,
spiritual theme
and,
going on over here.
and Kathleen had breast cancer that had metastasized to her lungs, just like my mom's. And so I went to go, they called me to go see if I could help console the son because she was in her last hours. So I went she was in a facility. So I went to the facility and I could see plainly all the similarities of I'm walking through my past right now. And trigger, trigger, trigger. But I immediately realized this is this son's experience with his mom. And so I walked in. He didn't really want anything to do with me. And I said, I'm just here to offer support if you would like some support. And if there's any way I can be of help, please let me know. And would you like to talk? And he said, no. He was just like, no. I said, I respect that and I understand that. And I said, so I'm just going to go sit in the lobby and for a while. And if you feel like you just need to get some air, you want me to come sit with your mom, or you want to come out and sit with me, or if there's anything I can get you, I'm here for you. And so I did. I went and sat in the lobby, and probably an hour and a half later, he came out and we started talking, and he just poured his guts out. And it was just, his feelings were so much what I experienced when I was saying goodbye to my mom at 20 years old. And I told him that I can't imagine how you must feel.
But you could.
But I said, because this is your experience. And I said, I lost my mom too, but nobody could tell me how wonderful she was and how awful this is. And so he respected that. And I kept in touch with him after his mom died. And he did very well moving on. But I never told him the similarities. I never told him that we had walked the same paths, for the very fact that grief is unique to you. And so what you are going to learn from grief is for you. There is a shift in your spirit, in your heart, with your experience, with your loved one, that is specific for you and your growth. And that is my hope with the book, is to help people see that there is a shift that takes place that will expand their life into rebirth, as you say, and give you some enlightenment, not only for your own life and how to live it, but also the relationships you continue to have here on earth. I think, when my mother passed away, my dad passed away, and I'm raising kids, I really didn't have anybody to go to and say, oh my gosh, these kids.
Right.
So, but I did go within my own heart and mind and said, what would my mom do? What would my mom do? And I feel like I brought her into raising my children because I just had that connection with her.
And you immediately had the sense that she was with you?
Oh, from the time she passed. I mean, I was shocked that she passed because nobody discussed it with me. And I know she was in the hospital and she was really bad.
Wow.
And, but she'd been in the hospital before and was really bad. So I just thought, this is a bad spell. She'll get over it. We'll move on. I didn't really see it. And then when it happened, it was such a big shock to me, even though she had been suffering with terminal illness for years. So
but that was probably hard to be talked about in your family also. That's unreal.
They didn't have words. I don't want to point out that, they just didn't want to talk to us. I feel like they didn't have the words.
Well, there's a way that they learn certain things, but they didn't learn like with an emotional IQ. They didn't learn how to, that's my take on it, express it or whatever. Was it just part of their, which now we're changing through podcasts like this, through people like you. So I know that in your chapter, Grief's Hidden Curriculum, you introduced the 5 prospects.
Yeah.
Okay. How are they different from the traditional 5 stages of grief, and why do you call them prospects?
Okay. The traditional 5 stages of grief, I'm not going to say anything negative about them other than they really work well for the terminally ill patient who is in the dying process and the grief that they are experiencing as they are passing away. But for the stages to really work for the bereaved, grief is more messy than stages, I think. It's
very.
Up, it's down, it's in, it's out. You can't really put a clinical stage on it. And the one stage of bargaining, well, there's no bargaining now. There is when the patient is alive, but not when they've passed, so it doesn't even fit. So I came up with, for the lack of wanting to make it clinical, and I didn't want to make stages out of it, just prospects. Prospects as a noun is basically, it refers to the likelihood of something occurring. So this may happen. That's why I called it prospects. And also, if prospects was a verb, it means to explore. If you're prospecting, you're exploring.
Right.
So grief is really an exploration as well. And the 5 prospects I came up with is first initially shock. Most people go through some form of shock. But even at that, I know a lot of my bereaved families were alarmed by the shock. Oh, they're in shock. That's terrible. How do we get them out of shock? And they just needed to learn, no, shock is a protection for you. Shock is actually a very good thing.
Helps you to survive. It helps you to function in that moment with everything is...
That's right.
Upside down.
Yeah, it really protects your neurosystem to be able to absorb the information in a timely manner and to walk through, the hours and days ahead of all the things that you have to do that you never wanted to do. The next prospect is it's detachment. You really feel detached from yourself, from the world, from what was normal. Nothing feels normal anymore. Right. Do you remember walking into like a grocery store and you feel like you're just standing there and the world is just spinning around?
I had that exact experience. I am so relating to it as you're talking.
Very common.
About
you're detached. You feel detached from the world.
You're sort of more like a witness of what's going on, but you're not a part of it.
Right, exactly. Well said. And I do think that that's a good thing as well, because that's where the shift starts to begin, to rethink the way we look at life, the way we participate in life, the way we think about death, the way we think about the death of our loved one. We detached from our old beliefs. We start to re-examine those things and go, do they really hold up? And so detachment is a big part of it. It is a possibility of what people will go through. The next one, of course, is anger. We all go through a sense of anger. And anger, I think is a healthy thing for you. You should get angry. That angry is what propels you into change. It tells you, hey, things have got to change. The way I look at things, the way I do things, the way I relate to other people. And so to go with your, and I'm not saying get angry and,
Beat people up.
Beat people up or, but to recognize that anger is a part of grief that, and I never felt angry at my parents or anything like that, but boy, I did get angry at the God I understood at that time.
Well, I think that anger often, I mean, I could, you're yelling, how could you let this happen to me? You betrayed me, or all of that kind of thing.
Yeah. And you feel, I know in my belief system, I felt so separated based on the teachings I had, that, when someone dies, they go up to be with Jesus in heaven, and you'll see them again when you die. That's it. Over and out. Peace out, people.
Wow. Wow.
And that wasn't my experience. My experience was when my mom passed away, I readily felt her presence. When my dad passed, when my friends passed, I felt their presence with me.
That's a blessing. A lot of people aren't aware of that. Or
That's
they close
the
it
thing.
down. It's coming at them, but they push it away.
They push it away. I believe it's always there for every person, but because of your belief systems, you may be shutting it down. And I know for me, I was taught to think of spirit as any other way, that their spirits would be present with me or speak to me was considered a voodoo or woo-woo or something bad, and that just wasn't my experience. I could feel my mom's promptings. I could feel her love for me.
That's such a blessing.
I still feel her love for me every time. And, I've had people, when I worked with them in hospice, they would say to me, here we're talking a week or two after their loved one passed, and they would say, is it bad that I talk to them?
Oh my gosh.
Is it weird? Is it weird that I'm talking to them? I said, it'd be weird if you didn't. You need to talk to your loved ones. They're there listening.
And they hear you, and
That's
they hear
right.
you, and they're around.
And they will respond if you're willing to open your heart to receive.
Well, we're going to talk about that in a little while also, because you opened up to mediumship, which I did too, which is a huge help. So after anger, what's the next prospect?
Perspective.
Perspective.
In grief, you get a perspective that you don't get in any other way. All trauma gives perspective. Grief gives perspective. It's the dichotomy of life. You have to know off in order to know on. You have to know down in order to know up. And so your perspective begins to grow in grief, where you're just getting a grander perspective of what this life is really about and your place in it.
Right, you get more of a universal perspective, right?
Yeah.
And you're starting to realize you're not the only person on this planet grieving. So what is that looking like? And it opens you up, right? Is there one other, or is that the end?
There is, and that's connection.
Oh.
The connection that we get with our loved ones that have passed on. And I wanted to put that within the prospects because I want people to look for it. I want people to know that it exists. I want people to know that they can find healing through that connection for themselves and in their continued relationships.
Absolutely. Not only on the other side as they're starting to do that, but I really want your opinion on this, please. I think a lot of relationships for me changed after my husband passed because I changed, and some of these relationships did not fit who I was becoming. And it's not something I think to be upset about. It's just something to recognize. And it's normal, right? Did you find that happen to you also?
Yes. And if we could marry the word shift with grief, it would be a good parallel, because that grief shifts you into understanding a world in a new perspective with new connections. And those things will drop others who are not on that shift with you. And it's not, I wouldn't say it's a negative thing. It usually, for me, it happened very naturally, Initially, in my first many years, I learned not to talk about my connection with my loved ones because everybody thought that was weird. And so I didn't. And I wish I would have now. I think my life maybe would have taken a different trajectory, or maybe not. Maybe it went exactly.
I think you're exactly where you're meant to be. Absolutely.
I know. I just wish I got here faster.
Yeah, that makes two of us, right? And is that perspective one of the three truths you teach about grief?
Yes. We really dive into perspective for the sense that there's what goes along with perspective is really a willingness to perceive life in a different way. I really had to look at my own faith beliefs, my own limiting beliefs about life and death, and I put them on challenge. I put them all on challenge. Do I believe in this? Do I believe in that? And I would go on a research, and I would go on a hunt. And I remember when I broke down fully, I sat in my car in the parking lot of my hospice office, and I told Spirit, I said, if you're there, then you'd better show me, because all this other stuff I have lined up here that I have been believing is not cutting it.
And when how did Spirit respond?
Yeah, and it took time. I had to continue. It didn't come quick for me. It came with a pursuit and a willingness. That's a key thing in that connection, is a willingness. Are you willing to open up your thoughts in your heart, in your mind, to accept whatever Spirit is wanting to bring to you, what your loved ones are wanting to bring to you, what your guides are wanting to bring to you? Are you willing? And if you are, you will be so surprised.
Yes, and pleased and changed, transformed. So this is a big question for me. You were so young when you experienced your first loss. Mm-hmm. What do you believe we should say to children when someone in the family is dying or has died? Mm-hmm. If it could be done again and you could coach the people in your family, what should they have said to you?
The truth. The truth is really the bottom line.
Do you tell a child mommy or daddy has gone too?
Everyone has their own faith system, and I know that I've worked with thousands of people where children were a part of that experience, and I always tell people to honor their own faith experience. They need to do that. So if they're comfortable in saying, they went to heaven, they went to be with Jesus, or maybe they've just passed away, and whatever your belief system is, tell them the truth from your point of view. Let them ask questions of, what does that mean? What does that mean? I think the main truth is saying that the physical body has stopped working. It has died. You've stopped breathing, the heart has stopped, and the physical body has stopped. But who your mom or dad was, that love, that personality, that consciousness is still very present. And I liken it when I worked with children and their parents had passed away, I would say, tell me, do you feel like your mom still loves you right now? And they go, yeah. Do you still love them? Yeah. That's it. There's your connection. They will always love you. You will always love them. You will always feel that love. They will never depart from it. And at any time you want to feel their presence, then you just sit quietly and remember how much you love them, and they will meet you there.
They will be right there.
They will be right there in any way. And if you want to talk to them, you talk to them. And I think kids, honestly, kids are way better at grief than we are. They are very, very open, very intuitive. They're willing to to explore and understand. Sometimes I would find kids had a connection with a loved one who passed away that the parent was saying, no, stop talking like that. That's weird, or no, that can't be happening.
Can you
Or they would
imagine
get
how hurtful
concerned.
that is for a child who really feels their mom or dad is still there and someone's telling
Yeah.
them your perception is not true?
Yeah, and I think for me, that was a key thing is I didn't get those true conversations. I didn't get to ask the questions, and I was left alone in wondering and just perceiving what the adults were doing, which was they were avoiding. And so I thought, okay, I guess that's what I do. So bring your kids in. This is I think about how wonderful it would have been if my mom, when I first walked in when her sister died,
Yes, so she was weeping.
would have embraced me at that moment and then explained to me she died and I miss her and it hurts my heart and I know you're going to miss her too. And we would have embraced each other and shared in an intimate moment of love that
and she's still going to be here with both of us and all of that,
That's
even
right.
though we miss her physically.
Yeah. Grief will open up that opportunity for intimacy with your children if you will be honest with them.
Wow. So now you opened up to mediumship. Was the first person you spoke to John Edward?
No, I didn't. Honestly, I didn't even speak to John Edward. I haven't even been to a medium.
Wow.
But
you haven't? That's amazing to me.
I know.
That's overdue.
I know. But I'll tell you why. Initially, before I recognized all the connection and stuff, I was taught that it was wrong, so I didn't do it. I always was intrigued. And so then when the internet started blowing up and you could see these stories of people and watch the mediums work with them and the connections that they have, oh gosh, I was just so hungry and I ate it all up. Right. But my connection with John Edwards was I was watching a video of John Edwards.
And by the way, for those who are listening, John Edward is a very, 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 very well-known medium. And my own personal story is he's the first person who channeled my husband, Saul, when the accident happened and Saul transitioned. So go ahead, tell us about the story with John Edward.
Yeah, so John was being interviewed and he was telling a story about his own skepticism about being a medium and how he struggled with even believing that these connections were true and right. And so his mother had passed away and he was extremely close to her. And so he asked for a sign from her, a very specific sign from her. And it had to do with doves. And so he goes on to tell the whole story about how his mother connected with him in a very profound way, utilizing doves. And he knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that that was his mother. And so he talks about that personal connection. So after I watched that video, I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm going to try it. So I'm like, Mom, I want you to send me a connection. And this wasn't even that long ago, but I had never really done that. And so, I said, okay, hibiscus, Mom. I live in the high desert. There's no hibiscus in the high desert. And so it's a tropical plant, so it doesn't grow well here. And I can attest to that because I'm trying to grow one in my yard. But I said, send me a hibiscus, and I don't care how it comes. It can be a flash up on a TV. It could be somebody says the word to me. It could be somebody brings me hibiscus. It could be anything hibiscus, because nobody talks, when they talk about flowers, they don't talk about hibiscus. They don't talk about, oh, I got a bouquet of hibiscus. It's a bouquet of roses or whatever. So I thought, this is a good one. This is really good. It's kind of unique. So, and then I kind of thought, oh, you're being silly. So I forgot about it. And 3 weeks later, my grandkids were visiting me, and my sweet little Skylar, she was 10 years old. She had just turned 10 at the time, and she kind of plays a game with me about a guessing game, and she says to me, Grandma, guess what my favorite flower is? So not even thinking about the hibiscus, I just said, roses, daisies, sunflowers, tulips. I was just naming, she'd go, no, 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 and giggle, And then she just pounces out with hibiscus.
Oh my goodness.
And I sat back and I said, what did you say?
Yeah.
Hibiscus? And she said, yeah, look, I have these pictures. There's a shirt with a hibiscus on it. There's earrings with hibiscus and a necklace. I really want these things. Now, my mom died before my own kids were born, let alone my grandchildren. They know nothing of her. They knew nothing that was my mother's favorite flower. Nothing. So to have that come back to me was like, okay, Mom, you got me.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And did something also happen with your stepson and his wife?
Yeah, my stepson Ryan and his wife Ashley were out visiting, and they came the next day. Actually, they were there the next day, and so I was telling them my hibiscus story with Skylar and how cute that was, and then they kept looking at each other, and then Ryan holds up his phone, and it's a picture of a hibiscus bush, and he says, I just sent this to Ashley yesterday to ask her if she wanted this, because my boss is digging them up and giving them away or something like that. Goodness. I didn't pay attention to the story as much as the fact that he was holding a hibiscus in his hand.
Wow, 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 wow.
So we all just sat there and went, okay.
Yes, there. She's here and she heard me. Yeah. So how has grief expanded your understanding of the soul from where you were coming?
In every way possible. It has expanded my understanding of the soul in every way possible. Grief makes a shift, like I said, that challenges you to examine what you believe. What did I believe about life? What did I believe about death? What did I believe about the soul and where it goes and how it communicates or doesn't communicate? It is in that deep sorrow, in that pain, where you're longing so much to hear from your loved one, to know that they're okay, to feel a sense of their presence, that's grief giving you an open door to say the soul is here. The soul continues. The soul is connected to you. You will never be separated from the soul. We are all part of the same consciousness. We are all part of the grander scheme, the grander spirit, the God, whatever you want to name it. We are all a part of each other here. But we feel a separation in our humanity. We feel a separation in our bodies. But it's when a body leaves, and if we're willing to really change, not so much change, but just really open our hearts and minds to learn more, we will be pleasantly surprised and find the expansion we need.
Tremendous. And it's so comforting. I mean, yes. To know that it's not over when it's over, that this person that you've lost, you're going to see them again, that they're around in your life. It changes everything for you.
Changes everything.
I mean, when people are very skeptical, I say, well, they'll find out when they cross over. I'm not going to argue with them,
Yeah.
But so can you share? I'd love to know your story about your father with his response to your mother's death and how that affected your relationship with him and your children.
Yeah. My dad, sweet Daddy-O, I called him. He was such a funny guy, very goofy, another part of my story is I was adopted by my mom and dad.
Oh,
and so,
okay.
And they wanted children so badly. And I felt very unconditionally loved by these people. They were my heart and soul, and my mom and dad, and protected me and gave me such a wonderful childhood. And my dad was goofy and fun and always joking around. And I remember him playing music on the stereo, and then he'd stand over it like he was conducting it.
Oh.
And, he was just a goofy guy, and he adored my mother. I witnessed a marriage that was unbelievable between the two of them. They were inseparable and loving, and they just cherished each other and adored each other. And so when my mom passed away, I always say I lost my dad too. He died that day too. He was never the same. I didn't see the jovial guy. I didn't see the fun, and he was brokenhearted. It's hard for me now in all my so-called wisdom about life and death and grief that I could have helped him then, but I was young. I didn't know. And we were doing what we knew, and that was to avoid. And so it was difficult.
So he was heartbroken and he was filled with this emotion and he just couldn't.
He couldn't
He
get
didn't
it
have
out.
anyone or any process or anything to help him
No.
process it.
And even when I started having children, he loved my kids. You know, he'd come over and see the kids and play with the kids. But then he'd have to leave because he'd start crying and he'd say, "Your mom is missing all of this."
Oh my
Like
God.
every avenue in his life, every step he took just brought him back to what he was missing. And I honestly feel if someone, anyone, if the teachings that he received was that she's still right here. She's still loving you. She wants you to hug those kids for her. She wants you to play. And he tried, but it was just so hard. And so I feel like I lost that dad I knew. My kids never really got to know the dad I knew. And so grief now was expanded in that way, in the sorrow. And I have witnessed so many families that do the same thing, that they are so caught up in our definition of what grief is, the monster, the deep sorrow, you're going to be miserable, you'll never get over grief. These statements that continue to perpetuate on social media and everywhere else are just so false, and they're destroying people who are grieving, and they're destroying the continued relationships that they have with others.
Right.
So,
Completely. It's heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking.
Because it'd be so much different.
Mhm.
So I would love to know, because you have a platform called Balance and Grief, and you are blossoming like a hibiscus to do all these additional things in your life. And so tell us about Balance and Grief. And I think you also have a special offering for our Grief and Rebirth podcast audience today.
I sure do. Yes, yes. Well, Balance and Grief. I started just a year ago, so I'm just a baby to the newbie stuff going on here.
Well, that makes two of
Learning
us.
myself. And I feel like the name Balance and Grief really comes from the fact that, you know, we understand that grief is a great catastrophe. It's very difficult. I'm not trying to minimize the pain in any way of what people are experiencing. But the balance is that there's more to that story, that there is hope, there is healing, there is joy, there is connection, there is perspective, there is a shift in your life. And so that's where I have a platform called Balance and Grief. Come see me there, and you can get some free resources, tip sheets on different topics, you know, whether they be holidays or loneliness or those kinds of things. I also offer my curriculum. It's called Best Results Grief Work Curriculum, and BEST is an acronym for the B stands for brain, because I talk about how the brain works and how we receive information, how we give information, how we get looped into ruminating thoughts, and we get stuck in our emotion because of those things. So we talk about the brain. I talk about E's for examine, to examine your own beliefs, examine what your limiting beliefs are, examine what you thought about life and what you can think about life now. S, very important, self-care. This is the time of self-care. You can call it being selfish. That's good. Be selfish with yourself and take care of yourself. And then T is for techniques. Techniques, basically, this is why I was drawn to grief coaching, is because it's really about the day-to-day. How do I get through this minute? How do I get through this moment? How do I go back to work? How do I go back to socializing? How do I, clean out the closet? All of those things is just the
How do I resume my old life when there's a new thing going on here and it's so
That's
different? Right. You're like, you have got a leg in both worlds,
Yeah.
and it's really helpful to get help. And I know we'll provide a link because you have a companion workbook for your book, Grief the Teacher.
I
so
do.
You're going to offer that to our audience, right?
Yeah, everybody listening, if you would like, it's a digital companion workbook for Grief the Teacher. It comes in a fillable form, or you can print it, whatever is more comfortable for you. And it's offered for you. You can get it at offer@balancinggrief.com.
And that is going that's going to make its way into our show notes. So all of you will be able to see that with the show notes and get that for yourselves. It sounds like a really helpful vehicle for people. And would you like to tell people how willingness to engage with grief, which is a universal experience, how can that profoundly shape your healing journey?
Yes. It's really that key step of being willing. It's being willing to look at everything you ever thought about life and how your life is going. I know for some people, they say, I just want to get back to normal. And sometimes I ask them, well, how good was normal?
Yeah, normal's changing.
Was it really all that good? We're stressed out all the time. We've got lists of things that we have to get done. And this grief shift, where it makes you really look at all the things that you're doing. Are you spending your days doing mindless things that are not serving you? Are you taking for granted the time that you have with your loved ones that are still in your life? Grief is really showing you all the little aspects in your life that it wants to shift into a more expanded, healed, joyful experience than what you had previously had. Grief can be a teacher for you instead of that dark cloud that's following you everywhere, if you are willing. If you are willing
to work on it and all. And if you're willing, to me, it's like opening yourself up when you're dropping a lot of the pain and you're changing your perceptions about things.
Mm-hmm. It's scary.
It's scary. That's right. It's very scary, but it's also incredibly freeing.
It's
like, oh my God, and empowering. Yeah. And is there one essential practice you recommend for finding joy again?
One essential practice. I'm going to say trust. Trust yourself. Once you're willing and you're willing to look at different things, you need to begin to trust yourself again. Trust your ability to believe the wisdom that's coming through your heart and your mind. Believe the connection that you're getting from your loved ones. Trust it. That's where I think some people also get hung up, is they don't, I could tell my hibiscus story to somebody and they go, yeah, okay, great, whatever. But it's in trusting that was my mom connecting with me that had filled me with joy. It filled me with healing because I was not only willing, but then I trusted it. I trusted. And so
look what's going on. And look what's going on. Look at how you're helping people with this. It's wonderful.
Yeah,
it's really wonderful. Kat, as we close, I want to read this insights-filled quote from your wonderful book, Grief the Teacher. The teacher we never wanted, with the lessons only love and loss can teach. Quote, grief taught me that death is physical, not final. It expands perspective. It invites wiser choices. Resilience is not getting over loss. It is expressing my feelings fully in each moment. It is expressing my feelings in each moment grief visits. Grief, the teacher, shows us how life is meant to be lived moment by moment with awareness, compassion, and courage. Without fear of death, for life is a continuum, just transformed to new realms. While grief is devastating, it is also profound. It can initiate changes that lead to unexpected wisdom, peace, and even joy. I now feel a deep responsibility to share this understanding with others facing profound loss, to help them see that even in the midst of devastating grief, there is still a path towards peace, connection, and healing. And that is just one passage from your wonderful book, which I think it can be such a comfort to people. I just want to thank you for teaching us that while no one chooses grief as their teacher, the lessons it offers can transform how we live every day.
Right.
And I want to, Kat, thank you from my heart for this wise and powerful interview. And I truly wish you abundant blessings always.
Oh, thank you so much, Irene. I appreciate you so much and your audience. And I send my love to all of you that are experiencing such loss. I hope for you healing and joy.
And we've just brought you a beautiful resource named Kat. So to be continued, as I like to say. Thanks for tuning in to Grief and Rebirth. Remember, you can dive deeper into everything we've discussed by checking out the show notes and all past episodes at griefandrebirth.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Irene S. Weinberg on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to our channel at Healing from Grief and never miss a video. For those of you listening, you'll find links to my 2 books, Good to the Last Drop and They Serve Bagels in Heaven, in the show notes. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see those books listed right above, so don't miss out. And here comes a special treat. If you sign up for Audible as a first-time user using my link, which you can find in the show notes, you can get They Serve Bagels in Heaven for free. And finally, people often ask me what I read, what I use, and what I recommend for healing and self-care. So I've carefully curated a compilation of those items to share with you. You can head over to www.amazon.com/shop/Irene S. Weinberg to check them out. And to my cherished Grief and Rebirth podcast fans, stay tuned and see you again soon.